This video is sponsored by RipX DAW. Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers is originally in the key of G major, or at least the choruses. So what would it sound like if that chorus was instead in the key of G minor, or G Dorian, G Phrygian Dominant, or G Locrian? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. So let's start by listening to Can't Stop in its original key of G major.
The world I love, the trains I hop to be part of the wave. Can't stop. Come and tell me when it's time to.
So I feel like the most obvious next step is to go to G minor instead. In the original version of the chorus in the major key, the four chords we get are G, D, B minor and C major 7. So to swap it into the natural minor key, we're going to instead have G minor, D minor, B flat and C minor. Of course, we have to change more than just the chords, we have to change the melody as well. So if I go into RipX, I can move around the notes of the melody, and the notes that I'm moving are the notes that are different between the major scale and the minor scale, namely the thirds, sixths and sevenths.
The world I love, the trains I hop to be part of the wave. Can't stop. Come and tell me when it's time to.
So that was Can't Stop in the natural minor scale, but there's various different minor scales we could use. Natural minor, or Aeolian as it's otherwise known, is just one of those. What about the Dorian scale? The Dorian scale is a slightly brighter version of minor because the sixth degree hasn't been lowered. It has effectively a raised sixth degree. So this time we're going to change the chords and melody so it matches the G Dorian scale instead. And that's going to give us a chord progression of G minor, D minor 7, B flat and C. So the main difference we have here is you have a C major rather than the C minor that we had in the previous natural minor version.
The world I love, the trains I hop to be part of the wave. Can't stop. Come and tell me when it's time to.
So far we've heard Can't Stop in three different scales, the major scale, the minor scale and the Dorian scale, and all three of those are actually what we call modes. The major scale is the Ionian mode, the minor scale is the Aeolian mode, and the Dorian, well, that's the Dorian mode. So what if we put Can't Stop into yet another mode, this time the Mixolydian mode? Mixolydian is just like the major scale, but the seventh degree has been lowered. So here in the key of G Mixolydian, we have an F natural, whereas in G major, you'd have an F sharp. And that has the effect of making it sound a little bit more mellow, a little bit more directionless and chill. It's like major, but less sort of dramatic, I guess. And the chords we wind up with when we put Can't Stop into the Mixolydian scale are G, D minor 7, F and C.
The world I love, the trains I hop to be part of the wave. Can't stop. Come and tell me when it's time to.
So when we compare it to the original version of Can't Stop, we can see a big change is we have a D minor chord instead of a D major, and that's because of the Mixolydian scale. You also might be wondering why we have an F chord here instead of some sort of B chord, and that's because the B chord we would get in Mixolydian is a B diminished chord, and it's a little bit awkward. So instead I swapped it out for an F chord, which is the flat 7 chord, in many ways what you could describe as the character chord of the scale, because it's the chord based on the note that is different in that scale. So how exactly have I been changing the melody notes that Anthony Kiedis is singing to change them into each of these different scales? Well, I've been using today's sponsor, RipX. RipX allows you to not only isolate the separate stems, the separate instruments of a piece of music, but then freely manipulate them, retune them, change the notes they're tuned to,
Wonder if it's all for you.
harmonize them, stretch them out, remove them. You can do so much with this tool. It's a super useful piece of software that I use all the time in my video making and my music making. You can try out RipX DAW for free by following the links down below in the description. Thanks very much. So we've heard Can't Stop in 4 different modes now, but let's hear it in something slightly more exotic. Let's hear it in the Phrygian Dominant scale. Phrygian Dominant is a mode, but it's not a mode of the major scale. If you don't know what that means, then check out my previous videos about the modes of the harmonic minor, because Phrygian Dominant is a mode of the harmonic minor scale. Now, Phrygian Dominant is known in the West as having a sort of quasi Middle Eastern Arabic sound, because it's sort of close to the sort of scale they would be using in Arabic music. Not exactly the same, but it's close enough that it evokes that sort of sound. This scale is quite interesting because it has a flat second and a major third, so quite a wide gap between those two notes, which is part of what gives it that exotic sound.
The world I love, the trains are hard to be part of. The wave can't stop. Come and tell me when it's time to.
So the chord progression we wound up with here for the Phrygian Dominant version of Can't Stop was G, A flat, F minor and C minor. Now if we compare that back to the original version of Can't Stop, we can see we still have the same G chord, we have a C minor chord instead of a C major chord, but for the two middle chords, D and B minor, I swapped them out for A flat and F minor, because to evoke that Phrygian Dominant sound, we really want to emphasize the unique notes of that scale, and in this case that is the flat second degree, the A flat. So A flat is here in the A flat chord of course, and also in the F minor chord. So both of these chords get that Phrygian Dominant sound into the music. Now, it wouldn't be a let's put this song into a bunch of weird scales video without finishing with the Locrian scale. The Locrian scale is infamously known as the unusable scale. It's a mode just like Dorian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Ionian, but it's nowhere near as pleasing or usable as those other scales are. And you'll soon hear why. The big problem with the Locrian scale is that the fifth degree has been lowered down a semitone, making it a flat fifth, which means we can't have a major or a minor chord on the tonic degree. We have to have a diminished chord instead, and diminished chords sound inherently unstable and unresolved, which isn't very helpful considering that the tonic chord, the chord you build on the 1 degree, the first degree, is meant to sound resolved. So the Locrian scale kind of never sounds resolved.
The world I love, the trains are hard to be part of. The wave can't stop. Come and tell me when it's time to.
Now, if we look at the chord progression I've used for the Locrian scale, it's really quite far removed from the original Can't Stop chord progression. It's kind of similar to what I used for Phrygian Dominant, because I once again want to get those distinctive notes in there, like the flat second. Locrian has a flat second, just like Phrygian Dominant did, but we've also now got these diminished triads instead of the G major triads, which makes a big difference to how this sounds. You'll also notice that I've underpinned every single chord with a drone of G. All the bass was doing was droning G, and in fact on the guitar part, I tuned the A string and the D string down to an open G note, just to give us some droning Gs, because the thing is with the Locrian scale, it's very unstable, and what I mean by that is it kind of wants to resolve somewhere else. It wants to stop being Locrian and start being something like the major scale. Now that's because of how modes work. Modes are special scales where they share the notes with other scales. So put shortly, G Locrian is the exact same notes as A flat major. And because of that, if we're not careful to make it clear to the listener that G is our root note, G is the tonic note, then the ear will naturally start hearing A flat as a tonic note instead, and that Locrian sound will be lost. So when writing in Locrian, you basically always have to drone the tonic note underneath. So of course, the best version is probably the original version, but let me know out of those scales which you preferred the most, which reharmonization was the best one. And if you enjoyed this video, then do check out my previous videos where I do a similar thing to Bohemian Rhapsody, Wonderwall, Someone Like You, and also Norwegian Wood by the Beatles. So if you've made it this far, then maybe you'll be interested in my music. I've just released an album of original songs, 10 original songs that I wrote. The album's called Under an Empty Sky. It's available right now on streaming platforms and also on Bandcamp, where you can buy it on vinyl, CD or download.
Light in the dark, anyone can see.